Hey YouTube, Sandyfrank here. Today I'm going to be doing a different type of video talking about the subject of should I collect Japanese Pokemon cards. Now, you might be wondering, why would you want to collect Japanese Pokemon cards when you're from the United States and speak English? Well, my thought as a young person collect them was I didn't really care about the Japanese cards. I don't speak Japanese, so I always just collected the English ones. But I am gaining an appreciation for Japanese cards, and I think what brought this on subtly was Pokemon. These cards that came out. This came out in 2014. The Mega EX cards. They're from the XY series cards, and this is a Mega Charizard EX. But if you'll notice, the card looks really cool, but it also has Japanese writing on the English card. That's the name of the attack there. And in the Japanese versions of the cards have, instead of Japanese writing right here, it has English writing. And that always stood out to me that, wow, these cards look really cool with the Japanese writing. And I think a lot of it is because all the artwork is done in Japan and it just really goes good with the Pokemon characters. Pokemon was invented in Japan. I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably realize that. But also, Pokemon cards actually came out in Japan. Here's another Mega card. This is a full art Mega EX card. Pokemon cards came out in Japan 3 years before they came out in English. So there's a lot more tradition with the Pokemon cards in Japan. And one question that you might ask yourself is, does the language matter a lot to you as a Pokemon collector? And I always thought so, but I'm starting to think maybe it doesn't matter as much. If you'll remember, at the beginning of this video, there were 3 Pikachus that I was holding in my hands. And I'm sure you noticed that they were all Pikachus. But did you notice that without going back, don't cheat, do you know which one of those cards was in a foreign language? There were 2 that were English, and 1 was actually in French. And that's just a social experiment to show that, do we really notice the language that the cards are in? This one's especially tricky because Pikachu spelled the same in French as English. But as you can see, this card right here is in French, and I never even noticed this card was in French until I was recently going through my cards again, and I was picking out my Jungle Pikachus, finding nice ones to possibly get graded. And then on second looking at this card, I was like, wow, this is not even an English language card. It is actually a French card. And it's been in my collection all these years. I never even noticed it. Because what do I appreciate about the cards? Well, number one by miles is the artwork. That is what I enjoy about the Pokemon cards. Another thing I enjoy are the set symbols, which are right here. And also the card number. The rarity, I don't really care much about the rarity, but it is information that's on the card that I would look at sometimes. I also look at the artist names because I appreciate the art. Like this is by Ken Sugimori. And, of course, the Pokemon name. Basically, all the other information on there, maybe the type, but all the other information on there, I don't play Pokemon. I mean, I played it with my kids a little bit, but I didn't really, that's not what drew me to the Pokemon cards. I'm drawn by the art, and a lot of the stuff I don't really read all this other information. It's important for gameplay, but for just appreciating the cards, it's not something that I have always noticed. So that got me thinking, should I collect Japanese cards? And let me show some Japanese cards here. These are some really nice ones I picked up recently. But here's what the Japanese cards look like. This is one thing that I don't love about Japanese cards is that unless you know who the character is, the name of the Pokemon is in Japanese, not in English, of course. But all the other information that I enjoy about the card is there. Of course, the artwork, the set symbol is right here. The card number is down here. The type, all that is easily recognizable. And also, interestingly, the artist name is printed in English on the card. So if you are appreciating the art of the cards, even if it's Japanese, you can see who the artist was and be able to read that without knowing how to read Japanese. So now it comes down to, why don't I collect Japanese cards? Because obviously I really like them. I like the artwork. One thing you'll notice, these are some different... these are actually Japanese promos. I really like these. These are examples of cards that didn't come out in English. And I love these because these are... the artworks on these are the artworks that were eventually used on the English booster packs. And so those artworks are great looking on these cards. And here's another really cool one, this Dark Espeon. So, what are the differences between English? Here's a couple other really cool Japanese cards I took out to show how cool they look. There's a Sabrina's Alakazam. Okay, what are the differences between English cards and Japanese cards? And what are the advantages? Well, number one thing you notice is, of course, without just looking at the languages, I think the card quality is definitely better in Japanese. If you'll notice, this is a little bit tougher to tell on this card, but the background of the card, the blue is a much more vibrant blue than the English card is. And I've never been a huge fan of the huge borders on English cards. The Japanese borders are much thinner, so they utilize more of the card space on a Japanese card. I also feel like the hollows are a little bit more vibrant on the Japanese cards, which I love the hollows. I don't know if you can see, it seems like it's a little bit more eye-catching and vibrant on the Japanese card. Now these two artworks, they're very similar, but they are slightly different. The English cards have a little bit of a bigger picture on the cards than the Japanese cards. Japanese cards are more of a widescreen look to them, I guess you'd say. It's shorter this way, but it also is longer this way because they use more of the space of the card. And on this particular card, you do get to see more of the Gyarados on the English card. I don't know if you can tell looking at the top of the cards. The bottom of the card is pretty much the same, but you definitely can see more of the Pokemon on this card. So on this particular card, I kind of prefer the English artwork on this one because you can see more of the Gyarados. It seems like they had to crop out some of the Gyarados on this card. And I know a lot of people say the Japanese artworks are more vibrant, but in this particular example, I think the printing is a little bit more vibrant on the English version. So overall design of the card, you'd have to give it to the Japanese, but there are some good things about the English cards versus Japanese. And another thing to look at are the backs of the cards. This is the Japanese and this is the English. The English back of the card is a beautifully designed card. I love the look of the English back of the card design. The Japanese one, it's decent. It's okay. It does have the copyright back there. I never noticed that. It says 1996 on the back of that card. Yeah, and but it just isn't as nice looking, I think, as the English version. Plus, it says Pocket Monsters. That was the original name of the game, And then this is, of course, familiar to the English collectors. All the cards, even card packs you buy today, Vivid Voltage has the exact same card back. This familiar design, where they did change the Japanese after a few years. And I do like the newer Japanese style card back, but this is the vintage style. So I give the huge advantage here to the English. Plus, the English is very easy to tell if the card has been played a lot by looking at the back of the card, which I enjoy that because it has this dark blue border. If the card's been played with, you'll see whitening on the edges. Unfortunately, though, some of the sets aren't printed with the highest quality, so there's sometimes little white chips that come. A brand new card out of the pack will have white chips on the corners. This one is very clean though. So this is the Gyarados, Misty's Gyarados. Of course, let's take a look at another example. Here's the Lieutenant Surge's Magneton. Now this card, you can definitely see a difference of the art on this card. Again, it's more of a widescreen look at the Magneton there. This one has a little bit brighter hollow than this one, and this one is very cropped very nicely on the Pokemon, where this one has a little bit of a space there where they made the picture a little bit bigger, but the Pokemon itself looks like it's the same size. And on an electric Pokemon, I think the yellow border doesn't look as bad. It looks really, the border on this card looks great. I like that it's a little bit of a gold color against the gold, against the yellow of the main card. And if you also notice, this is more of a white with yellow, and this is more of a yellow for the electric Pokemon. And here's a Lieutenant Surgisphero. This card definitely it's the same situation here where the picture is more cropped, and you actually crop out a little bit of the Phero's foot on the Japanese, where you have the entire Pokemon on that card on the English. So I actually enjoyed that art better because you get the whole picture of the Phero, and the hollow looks really good on that one. Pretty much equal as far as vibrant hollow. But again, less border on this card looks nicer than the thicker border on this. And I'm not a huge fan of the solid yellow border, where this is more of a like a green. It kind of changes colors, like it's more of a white and yellow and goes to a dark yellow. Very cool. But these two cards are very close. Here's a card where there's a big difference in the artwork on this card. And also, if you'll notice, this is more of a red background of the card, where the Japanese is a real vibrant, fiery orange red. And that goes better with the fire. And the actual picture on the card, the artwork, you do get to see more of the Pokemon here. And this is actually zoomed in quite a bit on the Japanese version. It actually cuts off his legs. So I kind of prefer this one, so you can see more of the Pokemon, but the overall look of this card is really nice with that fiery orange-red background. So very close in terms of the actual artwork. Now this one, these two, doesn't seem like they cropped much at all off of the Japanese version than the English. Oh, I should put them like this because that's how I've had them. But I do notice that maybe it's a little bit of a different look. Like this is a black back here. These parts are black, where it's like almost like a lighter color on the English version. It looks better with the black there. Like there's a spotlight on the Hitmonchan. And again, I think it looks a little less cool with this big yellow border than the border they put on this. So I'll give the edge on this card as far as the artwork of the card to this card, the Japanese. Now I've shown this before. This is one huge plus on Japanese cards, is you don't have edited artwork or altered artwork on Japanese cards. This is the original design of this Pokemon card. It's the Sabrina's Gengar. It's just 1,000,000 times cooler on the original Japanese card. It's very much more of a creepy looking card. You've got Gengar. He's in a graveyard. You can see the grave markers back there. Very cool artwork. Really nice looking holo. On the English, they altered it. They took all that out, and now you just have Gengar standing. Looks like in like a lake bed, a dry lake bed, with nothing in the background except for there's like the horizon back there, and it just doesn't look as cool. And this one just adds so much more ambiance to the card. This is a slam dunk that this is a way nicer card. Plus, I do think they got the purples much more on in the Japanese, where this is more of like a rosy, like a violet purple, and this is a purple. This color purple goes better with this card than this rosy purple. Okay, so those are some differences there, but another thing I like about Japanese cards is the holo quality is way better. It just comes down to the manufacturer. There's a different manufacturer that makes Japanese cards than makes English. The English card, you can even see on this one, there's print lines. I'm not going to hold scratches against it because that was something that happened after it got manufactured. But I think the surfaces is a little bit easier to scratch on an English card than Japanese for some reason. Maybe there's a better coating on the card. But on these vintage cards, I never hardly ever see print lines, which that's a big thing with like this one right here. You can see, if you hold it just right, you can see there's a big print line right there. There's some other ones right here. It just takes away a little bit from the look of the card. So the manufacturing quality is definitely better on Japanese. Now, I will say though, that's good for English is that the holos are much tougher to get. It's kind of easy to pull Japanese holos from packs. So there's a lot more of them out there. So there's definitely a more rarity for an English holo, and that makes them more collectible. But, and obviously with so many manufacturing issues, PSA 10s are very tough to get, and a PSA 10 English card is worth way more than a PSA 10 Japanese card. But me as an appreciator of the art and stuff, I'm not going to stop collecting English, don't get me wrong, but I am definitely going to start collecting some Japanese cards, and plus the fact that this card came out maybe 3 or 4 years before the English version came out, makes it seem a little more special. I know English people will really go crazy for the first edition, but really this is more truly a first edition card than a first edition of this English, because this came out years before. Now, one other aspect is I enjoy getting cards graded, and here's an example of a Japanese, I'll put them like this, an English and a Japanese card graded. So this is what they look like slabbed. The English cards look fantastic slabbed, I think. This yellow border actually looks good in a PSA slab, especially when you get a nice grade like a 10 or 9 or 10, because that's usually meaning you have pretty good centering on the card, so the border does not stand out as much. And if you have a nice graded card, those original English holos look great. And obviously, love the back of the cards in English. So English cards look great graded. Japanese cards, they also look great graded. being in slabs really makes those Japanese hollows pop, as you can see there. This is also a PSA 9, by the way. This is a dark Vileplume in Japanese. So, yes, you can get Japanese cards graded, obviously, and they'll put the Japanese label on there. 1998 Pokemon Japanese Rocket Dark Vileplume Hollow. So, even though this is Team Rocket, and this is the base set, look, this is older, even though it's Team Rocket, than the original base set. That's how long they printed Japanese cards before going to the English. And yeah, I was wondering about that. See, this was made in 1998, but it does say 1996 on this side of the card, so I wouldn't go by this date on how old your Japanese card is. The English cards actually have the correct manufacturing dates. This is 1999 and this is 1999. It does not have an English date on the front of this card. You just have to do research and find out when they made Team Rocket for Japan. So, while I'll always love English cards, those are what I came up on playing, or not really playing that much, but collecting. I definitely am very much enjoying the Japanese cards, especially these the vintage. I'm not really looking to collect the modern Japanese cards. I am mainly looking at the vintage ones to collect. And I'm definitely going to be sending these off for grading, so they'll look awesome in slabs like this. And I'm going to continue to look around, even though very unlikely I'm going to find many, because I'm here in Texas. You just cannot find good condition Japanese cards here in Texas. So thankfully I was able to find some from a online card shop, and was very happy with the condition that I got. And one awesome other thing about Japanese cards is they're still relatively inexpensive. So if you want to collect them, you're going to be better off money-wise. Like, if I would have tried to buy all these in English, it would have cost me probably 3 or 4 times more than what it cost me to get the Japanese version. So I appreciate that aspect of collecting Japanese cards. So, in answer to what the question posed in the video, should I collect Japanese cards? What do you guys think? Put down in the comments, do you think I should collect Japanese cards? Do you think you should collect Japanese cards? I mean, I've made up my mind on it, but maybe you guys can tell me reasons that that's a dumb thing to do, or maybe not dumb, just maybe a bad move. But I mean, art is subjective, so what looks cool to me might not look as cool to you. So definitely collect what you like, but I definitely am going to be on the lookout for vintage Japanese Pokemon if I can find some nice condition cards. Alright, stay tuned for more videos, and hopefully you enjoyed this type of video. I'm going to try to do more collector information or discussion type videos instead of just doing box openings or pack openings all the time, because after a while I think the pack opening videos sometimes get a little monotonous, and I have been noticing since COVID that there have been some really interesting new YouTube channels coming up that don't do any pack openings. They just talk about the hobby, and there's been very interesting discussions that have been going on. Alright, so stay tuned for more videos, and definitely check out my other videos, and I'll try to do more videos like this if you like them. Alright, later.